Let's go, girls. Welcome to Talk Wealthy to Me. I'm Michelle Taylor, founder of Women in Wealth. From breaking money myths to building wealth and achieving financial freedom, we're here to empower you to create your own path. Talk Wealthy. Now, join the conversation and let's change the way women think and feel about money. Okay, ready? Hey friends, welcome back to Talk Wealthy to Me. I'm Michelle Taylor, and today we are going to talk about something that is new and different, and probably something that you wouldn't necessarily think of when you're thinking about financial conversations. It's not about the market or tax brackets and how that impacts you or any of the other things that come to mind. We're going to talk about the invisible role that so many strong, successful, generous women have quietly taken on, whether they chose to or not. And that is the role of the safety net. And by the end of this episode, you're going to have the language for something you've probably been feeling for years, maybe a way to understand exactly what it's been costing you, and a practical framework that you can use the very next time someone needs something. So get comfortable. I hope you have a nice coffee in your hand and buckle up, because this is a conversation that I've been waiting to have with you for a long time because it affects so many of us. Okay, so over the years, I've had the distinct privilege of sitting across from hundreds, if not thousands of women. Now, they are women at different stages of life or in different careers. Some have kids, some don't. Some are married, some aren't. Some are the breadwinners, some aren't. And they all have different levels of income and wealth and really goals that they're chasing. Maybe they're entrepreneurs. Maybe they're executives. Maybe they are stay-at-home moms. Maybe they're building something brand new and exciting or preparing for retirement. Whatever it is, whatever they're rebuilding or building or searching for or going after, on the surface, their stories look completely different. And it's fun. But every so often, I start to notice a pattern. And once I see it, I cannot unsee it. Here's the thing about this pattern. It's never the first thing a woman tells me. No one walks into my office and says, "Oh, Michelle, I'm carrying way too much." Instead, it reveals itself slowly. And I can't tell you the times I've asked someone when we're going over projections and goals, if there's anyone that counts on them or relies on them that we need to consider. So often they'll say, "Well, no, just my family," or, "Well, I'm not married and I don't have any kids, so no." But the reality is, as we peel the layers back, oftentimes that answer changes to yes. Maybe it's a passing comment about helping a parent out, or a conversation about supporting an adult child, or maybe it's just a mention of covering expenses for a family member who's really struggling or sick or, anything like that. Maybe it's a story about funding an opportunity for someone that you love. And all of those things are totally okay. And that's what I want to make sure I'm being crystal clear about right at the top of this episode. None of these things are wrong. None of them. And actually, I resonate with being a safety net, if you will, for a lot of people. And for me, that was a huge why for me in why I became an entrepreneur. I have those people in my life that have been my safety nets, and I cannot begin to tell you how much joy it gives me to be able to feel confident that I'm that person for other people. I chose it, and with so much intention. And most of these women are, coming from a beautiful place of generosity and love and genuinely wanting to show up for the people that we care about. And if they chose it, then that is wonderful and beautiful. But what fascinates me is how often those individual moments are part of a much bigger story, maybe one that they fell into or that they're living without even realizing it. Because somewhere along the way, they didn't just help someone, they became the true safety net, which is not for just one person, but sometimes for everyone. And almost no one chooses that role on purpose. It happens very gradually. It happens quietly. And because it happens so slowly, we almost never stop to ask, wait, what does this actually costing me? And when the heck did I get here? So let me give this thing a name, because naming it is where the power starts. And I like to refer to it as the safety net identity. And it's the belief, usually unspoken and often unconsciously made, that if everything falls apart for the people around you, you're the one who's supposed to catch it. Not that wants to help, but it's supposed to be the one to catch it. And today we're going to pull that belief out of the dark and into the light. Here's what most people misunderstand about money. Money is rarely just about money. I mean, money's just a tool, right? That's what we say all the time. We talk about financial planning and investments and tax strategy and estate planning, all the good things, right? But underneath every single financial decision is something much deeper: a story, a belief, a pattern, an identity. And one of the most common identities I see in successful women is the identity of the strong one, the dependable one, the one who figures it out. Maybe she's the one that makes the magic happen, the one that gets the call when something goes wrong, and the one who never seems to need help for herself. And that part is a doozy. For a lot of women, this didn't start when you built your wealth. It started way, way before that. Maybe you were the responsible daughter, the mature one, or the peacemaker, or the one that just held things together when no one else would or could. And maybe that forced you to learn very early on that being needed made you valuable. I know. And even just saying that and thinking about it is like, how many times do women go into relationships for the same reason? Well, if he needs me, he won't leave. I mean, it's all tied together, girls. It's just, it's heavy. And understanding it all makes it so much easier and clear to see. Maybe somewhere along the way, you learn that being dependable is what earns you the right to be loved, that being self-sufficient was safer than asking for help. And then you grew up, you built a career, you built a business, you built this amazing, created a beautiful life, a success story. And with that came financial stability. Well, here's the part that nobody warned you about. That very quality that helped you build all of those great things in this big, beautiful life, well, it starts attracting more responsibility. And because people move towards strength, they move towards competence, they move towards stability. And if you're listening to this episode, there's a very good chance that you are the person they move toward. And as good as that can be and can feel, you also just want to recognize that it doesn't have to be that way if you don't want it to be. Maybe you're the one that everyone trusts and the one that everyone calls, or just assumes that you can figure it out. And I know that feels like a great compliment, and it is. But every role carries a cost, and this is what I want you guys to understand. We live in a world that loves to celebrate strong women, right? The boss babe, look at her, she's doing everything, even though we're all exhausted. And while all of that praise is happening, no one's asking what that strength is costing them. And it reminds me of a story that's a little bit unrelated, but it also just still haunts me to this day. I remember when I was pregnant with my second child, my daughter, I was in the hospital because my water broke early. And it was at the very end of the year, all unexpected. I had big goals I was chasing and things I was trying to accomplish for the prior firm that I was at. And I remember sitting in that room and crawling the walls. And I was taking client meetings and calls. And I remember a managing partner I had at the time calling and telling me, look at you. You are just crushing it. This is why you're successful. Here you are in the hospital and you're taking meetings. And he told the story many times to other people in the office long after my daughter had been born and I was back at work. And I remember thinking with a sense of pride, like, yeah, look at me. Look at the hustle that I had. And it was several years later that I thought about it again in a different way and thought, holy cow, why was that being celebrated? I wasn't taking the time that I needed or being in the moment of about to have a baby. And why wasn't that celebrated? Because saying yes to one thing means saying no to something else, right? And I don't think that any ill intent or harm was ever meant by that. In fact, know it wasn't. But it's just interesting how the compliments feel good, but then you stop and ask what it cost, and maybe it isn't worth it. So let's ask it right now together. Let me tell you what I actually see. I see women who have built extraordinary businesses while carrying the emotional weight of their entire family. I see women helping aging parents while still supporting their own children, the sandwich generation, holding two up at the same time. And wow, I got a taste of that in Italy on a family vacation. And I give you guys so much credit that are in it. Mine was temporary, but I know living it every day, it's a lot. And I see women whose employees depend on them, whose communities depend on them, whose friends and siblings, everybody is depending on us and never asking how you're doing. And somewhere in the middle of taking care of everyone else, you just tell yourselves quietly that they'll get to their own stuff later, their own future, their own retirement or, strategy or just thinking about themselves in general, self-care, anything. And friends, I need to tell you something about later. Later arrives much faster than any of us expect. And in the world of money, later is the single most expensive word there is. Let me explain why. Because this is the part I really want you to hear. When you postpone your own financial planning or your own goals at the expense of something else, you're not just losing the years you skipped, you're losing the growth those years would have created. A decade of delay isn't a decade of missed contributions. It's a decade of missed compounding on top of it. The most expensive financial decision most women ever make is the one they keep not making. Think of somebody who decides to stay home with their kiddos. The 401k contributions stop for them or the business doesn't grow, but they never consider the compounding, the dollars growing on top of the dollars. That's actually the biggest part. And the second thing, there's a belief that financial success automatically creates security, that once you reach a certain number, the anxiety just stops. And it doesn't. I have sat with women who have a significant net worth and still carry a knot of financial anxiety in their stomach every single day. I've sat with women running successful companies who feel buried under the weight of everyone who's counting on them, the mortgages that their success pays for their employees. And I've sat with women who have spent 30 years taking care of everyone else and looked up one day to realize they had never once taken care of themselves. And I don't mean self-care the way the internet talks about self-care. I'm not talking about a bubble bath. I'm talking about genuine stewardship of your own future. The kind of stewardship that's brave enough to ask, what do I want my life to look like in 10 years from now? Or 20? Or what happens if I can't work anymore? Or if my circumstances change overnight? What happens if I keep saying yes to everybody else while postponing every decision that would protect me? Again, sometimes saying yes to someone else means saying no to yourself. And let me reassure you that asking those questions is not you being selfish. They are you being responsible. And yet so many women struggle to even ask them. Why? Because somewhere along the way, we confuse some things that were never the same. And those confusions are quietly now running the show. This is really the heart of today's episode. So I want you to really lean into this. There are 3 confusions I see again and again, and every one of them turns generosity into something heavier, something that feels more like obligation or even just something closer to obligation. Here they are. The first confusion is we confuse self-sacrifice with generosity. If I'm doing for someone else, I'm being generous, and isn't that what I'm supposed to do? We've been taught that the more it costs us, the more loving it must be. That if giving doesn't hurt, it doesn't count. But that's not generosity. And why do we believe that? That's depletion, wearing generosity's clothes, and they're not in a cute outfit. True generosity gives and remains standing. Self-sacrifice gives until there's nothing left and then calls the emptiness a virtue. The second confusion, We confuse being needed with being valuable. And that goes back to like the relationship piece, right? If you learned early that being needed was how you earned your place, then somewhere deep down, every request for help feels like a chance to prove your worth. And whether that's your worth of friendship or love or respect, it's all the same. So you say yes again and again, not always because it's wise or the right decision, but because being needed feels like being loved and wanted. But hear me on this. Your value is not your usefulness. You were valuable before you ever solved a single problem for anybody. And you would still be valuable on the day you finally say, nope, can't do it this time. And the third confusion, we confuse carrying people with helping them. And that one I feel like is what I resonate with the most because it's, I think, the easiest to fall into, right? I think it's the most important one. So hear me out. Carrying someone and helping someone are not the same act. Helping someone strengthens them. It gives them a hand up and leaves them more capable than they were before. Carrying someone removes the very thing that would have made them stronger in the future. And when you carry someone long enough, you don't build their independence, you fund their dependence. So think back to all of the times I've given the example about kids coming home from college. If you allow them to just hang out in the basement forever, well, now they're going to depend on you forever because they don't know how to be independent. So to give you cleaner language for this, because it can change everything, just remember there is a difference between support and rescue. Support builds someone's capacity. Rescue removes the consequence that would have built it. When you support someone, you're saying, I'll help you climb. When you rescue someone, you say, I'll carry you so you never have to. And friends, most of us are far more loving when we support than when we rescue. Because support believes in someone's ability to rise. You know that they can do it on their own. They just need a little support. Rescue, on the other hand, can sometimes feel quietly like it's telling them they can't do it without us, so they better never leave. I don't know, maybe. So before we get into the framework, I want you to hold all three of these close. Generosity is not self-sacrifice. Your value is not your usefulness, and support is not the same as rescue. Once you can see those things clearly, you can finally build something even better. Okay, so here's where we're going to turn the corner because I want to be very clear about what I am not saying today. I'm not telling you to stop helping people. Like I mentioned in the very beginning, I get so much joy from helping others and giving back, and it matters to me. So I would be such a hypocrite to tell you not to do that. I think you should do it. I am not telling you to become less generous. We are told and should be generous. I'm not asking you to harden your heart. The goal is not less generosity. It's just being intentional with the generosity that you're giving. Generosity that comes from abundance instead of depletion. Generosity that aligns with your values instead of your guilt. And generosity that strengthens your future instead of quietly risking it while no one is looking. And to get there, I want to give you 3 tools. Write these down. And if you're driving, just let them sink in and come back to it later because you can use every one of them this week. So tool 1, the oxygen mask comes first. And you've heard this rule. If you have ever been on an airplane, even though none of us pay attention, I can't imagine how frustrating that is for the flight attendants, but we're supposed to put on our own masks. We're supposed to put on our own masks first before our kids or anybody with us. And it's hard, but that's what you're supposed to do. So secure your own mask before assisting others. It's not selfish. You have to understand the logic. A person without oxygen cannot help anybody else. And a woman whose own future is unprotected cannot be a sustainable safety net for anyone else either. She's got one emergency in her future that could change everything, that now she needs herself and she's depleted. So, in practical terms, this means your own foundation gets funded first. Your retirement, your reserves, your insurance, your estate plan, and then what's left over, be generous in giving and all of those good things. And again, that's not you being selfish. It's just being generous to yourself first. The stronger your foundation is, the more you can give and the longer you can keep giving it. Tool 2, Give from a container, not from a crisis. And here's one of the most important distinctions in all personal finance. There is reactive giving and there is structured giving. Reactive giving is triggered by other people's emergencies. Someone calls, something's wrong, and then you write a check in the heat of the moment, and well, that's that. There's nothing to it but a lot of emotion on somebody else's part, typically. Reactive giving has a dangerous feature. It has no ceiling. It expands to fill wherever the crisis shows up next. And there's always another one. And once you're there once, twice, 3, 5 times, it could keep going. Now, structured giving is different. Structured giving has a number. It's a given budget, an amount you've decided in the calm that you can give without compromising yourself or your own foundation. When you give from a container, it's defined and it's in line with your plan. And every yes becomes a true yes. And every no becomes easier because it's not personal. It's just the edge of the container. So decide your generosity in peace, not in panic. That one shift alone will change your entire financial life. Tool 3, the 3 questions that you need to ask yourself before you say yes. And this is the framework I want you to keep tucked in your pocket forever. The next time someone needs you, and somebody always will, run the request through these 3 questions before you answer. Am I giving from my overflow or my foundation? Am I giving from the abundance on top, or am I reaching into the very thing that's supposed to protect me? If it touches your foundation, that's not a no forever, but it is a no right now or a no, not like this. Question 2, is this support or is this rescue? Will this help them become more capable, or will it remove the consequences that would have helped them grow? Am I handing them a tool, or am I picking them up and carrying them on my back yet again? Question 3, is this a decision or a reflex? Am I choosing this on purpose in line with my values and my plan, or am I just doing what I've always done because saying yes is the only muscle I've ever trained? And saying no is definitely a muscle that a lot of us need to train. So the 3 questions: overflow or foundation, support or rescue, decision or reflex. You will be amazed at how much clarity those 3 questions create in a moment that used to feel impossible and frantic. Now, I know there's a word that's been hovering over this entire conversation, and we need to name it directly: boundaries. And I'm going to listen to this myself because boundaries have never been a strong suit of mine. So there's no shame in this game, guys. But for a lot of generous women, that word feels really cold and like it's putting walls up, and the total opposite of being loving and giving, right? But we need to reframe it. And I wish that someone had reframed it like this for me at some point. A boundary is not meant to be a wall. It's a definition of what you can substantially give. When you set that boundary, you're not refusing to love someone. You're protecting your ability to keep loving them for a longer amount of time. Every time you say no to one thing, you're saying yes to something else, remember? So when you're saying no to a yes that would have drained you, you're saying yes to your own future, or yes to a longer runway of being generous, or yes to being someone who can still show up in 5 years, in 10 years, and 20. Boundaries aren't the opposite of generosity. They are what make generosity last. So if you've listened to this episode today and you recognize yourself in many of the scenarios, or you just identify as the responsible daughter or the dependable one or the one woman that everybody calls, I want you to hear this last part as we wrap up very clearly. The strength that built your life is real. It's beautiful. It's worth honoring. It's amazing. But you were never meant to be the foundation that holds up everybody that you love, or even just that you like. It was meant to be a foundation for you. The healthiest generosity in the world comes from abundance. Financial, yes, but also emotional and strategic and mental. It's the ability to give without compromising your stability, to support people that you care about without putting your own future at risk, and to help them from a place of strength instead of just feeling obligated to do so. That is the woman I want you to become, if you aren't her already. Don't be less generous, just be more intentional. So here's what I want you to do before our next episode. Find one quiet moment this week, no phone, no noise, and ask yourself the question that we started with. At what point did being capable become carrying everybody else? And then ask the next better question, the forward question. What would it look like to build a life where my generosity was a choice that I made because I felt strong and not because I felt it was a weight I had to carry? Sit with it, write it down, let it change something. If this episode is one that you listen to and you think, okay, I've got those boundaries and I feel really good about where I'm at, share it with somebody else that you care about, because I can assure you, you have somebody in your circle that is this person. And that's where the change happens. We need to help each other, have the conversations, talk about money, talk about where your beliefs come from and how you invest and what you're doing and how we all grow and scale and do bigger and better, amazing things. And as I leave you, as always, thank you for spending a little bit of your most precious asset, your time, with me again. And let's continue to change the way women think and feel about money together.